Hey everyone, my name is Fletcher Oliver. I'm a Chrome browser customer engineer, and today we're going to be doing a deep dive into managing extensions in Chrome Enterprise. So, what we're going to cover today is we're going to talk a little bit more about how extensions work, not only the value that they add, but some of the rights or permissions that they need in order to run. We'll cover how to audit the extensions that are already installed within your environment, so that way you can get a better grip on where to start when it comes to doing an extension management program. And then we're going to talk about the different options that are out there for managing extensions. So there's a couple different ones. We'll cover those as well. And then we're going to change gears and we're going to talk about how, if you're creating your own custom extensions, you can make those accessible to your users, especially in this day and age of work from home. And then we're going to talk about some of the new methods that are already out there so you can get started with today, as well as some of that are going to be coming down the pipe future later this year and beyond. So let's go ahead and get started. So first thing, obviously, if you're joining this webinar, you have some understanding on what an extension is, but for those that don't, an extension is really just something that augments your Chrome browser experience. So whether it's going to be changing the look and feel of Chrome, so say if you open a new tab, there'd be a different behavior if an extension was installed, or if it's connecting, say, to a third-party application, something that's going to increase productivity and maybe make things more fun for your users. So there's a lot of different reasons why people use extensions, and there's a lot of extensions out there which can tend to be pretty difficult to manage from an administrative perspective. So in order to really figure out the right way to manage extensions, you need to kind of take a step back and dive into how extensions work. And really, what extensions do is they have certain rights that they need to run, which are actually called permissions. And when a developer creates an extension within the manifest file, which basically details these are all the things that we're going to do within our extension, they have to declare what rights that those extensions need in order to function. So there's two different types of extensions, extension permissions. One is going to be site permissions. So those are the access or rights that those extensions need to function to the websites that your users are visiting. So it could be read, it could be write access, it could be both. And then there's device-based permission. Device-based permission is access, read, write, both to the device that your users are browsing from. So some extensions may have one, some may have the other, most might have both, but really coming to grips on what rights individual extensions that are either deemed to be business critical to your enterprise or that your users are installing a lot of is a crucial way to get started within extension management. So once you kind of go through and determine what those extensions do, then you can be able to determine what you will or won't allow to run within your enterprise. So moving on and kind of getting a little further into the steps to get started to doing extension management, really auditing and finding out what extensions are installed within your environment is really good to give you an idea of where to start, but also be able to limit the amount of end user impact that you're going to have when you start rolling out policies to either allow or block extensions or manage them by the rights that they have, which we'll talk about later in the presentation. So the best way to do this is through Chrome Browser Cloud Management. Now, Chrome Browser Cloud Management was launched actually last year at Next, and it's been around for about a year, and it has over 1 million devices already enrolled in it, so it's pretty popular, we like to say. And it's really the best way to not only manage all your Chrome browser instances in one location, as it does support multiple platforms, Windows, Mac, and Linux, but also it provides enhanced reporting. So you'll be able to see all the extensions that were installed, where they were installed, how they were installed. So that way you can really use this as a first step to get started in managing extensions. So how to set up Chrome Browser Cloud Management? It uses a token-based enrollment process. So it doesn't require users to sign into Google Identity. And once you generate that token, you can push it out through group policy. You can run a reg file, or if you're supporting Macs, you can include it in a plist and be able to manage it through your Mac management methods. So once you've enrolled the browsers within Chrome Browser Cloud Management, which is a free feature I like to talk about, is you turn on Chrome, you turn on cloud reporting, And once that's turned on, you're going to start getting some really great information into the console. So you have your browsers enrolled, and this is what a device-based view looks like. So I can see all the extensions that are installed. I can see how they were installed, what versions they are. And then if I see an extension that I don't want to be there, I can block or I can force install it right with a click of a button. So really, there's not too many other solutions out there, especially ones that are free, that allow the ability to get this enhanced visibility, but also be able to manage it as well. Because this console not only isn't just for just extensions, but you can manage all those user settings that you're currently doing within group policy directly in this console. And if you have existing group policy, it actually plays really nicely. It could be installed side by side, as local group policy will always take precedence over the cloud policy unless you tell it otherwise. So there's no need to rip and replace your existing policies that you already have for managing Chrome browser. You can actually do both within the console and your local GPO. So this is the device-based view, so more of a micro view. If we wanted to take a macro view, we can see all the extensions that are installed. So we can see where they're installed, how they were installed. We can click on them and be able to see more details about the extension itself on enterprise scale. So here I can see all the permissions or rights that it needs to run, examples of where it's installed, and I can click on those permissions and be able to see what that API does, what are some common uses for it. So this is a really great way to dive in, find out what's out there, find out the impact, and we'll also talk about later in the presentation about some different ways that you can pull this information out and consume it in different methods. So moving on, so the idea is that at this point you've enrolled devices into Chrome Browser Cloud Management or used other methods to find out what extensions are out there and how they were installed. That way you can limit the amount of end user impact that's going to be when you start rolling out policies. And then there's kind of two different options that you can use to manage extensions, or just two popular ones that I hear when I talk to most customers in enterprises. The first would be traditional management. So this is your kind of allow and block list. So extensions that are on your allow list, they can always be installed, and they have full access for users to be able to install them. Either you're pushing them out through policy, or they can install them directly from the Chrome Web Store. And then you have your block list, where these are the extensions that you will never allow to be installed. So the problem with the traditional management, and this is actually something that we used internally here at Google, is it tends to be quite unruly, and it has a lot of management and overhead tied to it. So having to maintain that large block list, that large allow list, and having to constantly go through approvals for exceptions really, at least from a Google perspective, since we are kind of a large organization and we have a lot of Googlers that are creating even their own extensions, it was just too unruly, had too much time attached to it. So our security team developed its own methodology, which we call enhanced management, which is really managing by the behavior of the extension itself. So if you remember from previously in the conversation we're having today, I talked about permissions, or the rights that extensions need in order to function. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to talk about how to manage by those rights. So you're going to make a determination through your audit process, maybe through Chrome Browser Cloud Management, on what permissions you will or won't allow from a security perspective, whether they're going to be device rights or site rights. You could be able to manage by both of those permissions, but also be able to manage what extensions can have access to certain websites. So this is a kind of a runtime host block, where you could say, hey, if you want to install these extensions and run them on external websites, myself as an administrator, I really don't care. But if you want to run them on our most sensitive websites, that's something that has to be approved by me, or they just won't work. So that's kind of what that enhanced management is, managing by the behavior of the extension, not by the extension itself. So it makes it so you don't have to individually manage each individual extension, and there's a lot of them out there. You can just say, this is the baseline that I'm going to allow within my environment, and these are the websites that I want to protect, and then manage by that. So let's dive in a little bit deeper and look at manage by permission and what it looks like to set that up. So here's an example of an extension. So this extension greets the user anytime that they open a new tab with this super dynamic, awesome anime wallpaper, right? And myself as an administrator, I have a lot of things on my plate. I'm trying to, protect against attackers. I'm trying to manage 3,000 different applications. upgrade OSs. I don't really have time to manage each individual extension. So if the user wants to have an anime wallpaper, go nuts. I don't really care. However, if it has a certain right or permission tied to it, I might care and I might block that extension. And unfortunately for this user, I've determined that the storage permission within this manifest, which is included within this extension, is one that I will not allow to run within my environment. Now, quick side note, the storage permission really isn't anything nefarious. It's just something that I've picked for demo purposes. So there's actually 3 ways that you can do this today. So how you can set up and manage by block by permission. So the first is going to be the group policy method. So what you're going to do is, if you're already managing via group policy, most likely you already have the ADM, ADMX templates for managing Chrome browser to manage those 300 plus different policies already within group policy. So you would go into group policy editor, and there's a subfolder there under extensions, and there's a policy called extension management settings. And within that, you're going to create some JSON scripts. So what you're going to do is, if you can see here at the very front of the JSON, there's a star. So this is a wildcard. You are able to use wildcards. So this would be a default permission. So this is going to block any extension that has the permission storage. I must say, on a side note or a personal note, this is my least favorite method because I do not like writing JSON, and you do have to truncate it to a single line. So you'll be able to see pretty easily which one I like the best out of the 3 methods. But we like to include this just because group policy is a reality, and maybe there's a lot of people watching today that are really good at JSON. I'm just not one of them. So the second method is the registry key method. So if you wanted to not write JSON, this will actually convert it to JSON on the back end. You can create a registry key, and you would do that under computer, HKey local machine, software, policies, Google Chrome, and then you would create a folder called extension settings, and then a subfolder under that with a star. This would be for a default policy. If you wanted to do an individual extension setting for one extension, you would just create a different folder with that extension ID. And then I have the key in there is called block permissions, and the value is storage. So you can feel free to take screenshots, but at the tail end of this conversation and kind of the call to action, how to get started, I'll be including some links to a really great white paper called Managing Extensions in Your Enterprise that covers all these different methodologies and step-by-step instructions. So the third and my favorite method is Chrome Browser Cloud Management. I'm kind of biased to this just because I don't like writing JSON, and I don't particularly like creating registry keys. So what you can do is you can go into Chrome Browser Cloud Management once you've enrolled your devices. Hopefully you've already done this for your auditing process. And you can just go into the apps and extensions. There's a specific place just for managing extensions within Chrome Browser Cloud Management. And then what you can do is go to the advanced settings, and there's a whole section blocked by permission. The reason why I like this so much is if I want to block by storage, I just click the box. So what can I say? I guess I'm a little lazy. So that's just definitely what I recommend to do. Just because you're most likely, if you're going to be doing the audited processing, you're already have your browsers in here, and you can apply this policy from the cloud. So let's look what this looks like in action. So I've applied the policy to this user, and unfortunately, the anime wallpaper is no more. It applies the policy, and it's just blocking that specific storage permission. So if they have it installed, it will be disabled. And if they try to install something that has that storage permission, it will be blocked. This is really great for being able to dynamically protect your users. Just because if there's an extension that you allow through traditional management on, say, an allow list, if that extension updates and adds additional permissions, since it's on the allow list, it will just continue to be installed. But this way, if you will allow an extension that has that baseline of permissions that you'll allow to run, if they change that, then it becomes overreaching or including a permission that you won't allow, then it will automatically become disabled, protecting your users that way. So moving on to runtime host controls. So what this does is it says you can run, Mr. User, you can run your extensions on any external site, but on my most sensitive sites, it's just not going to work. So let's see what this looks like in action. I have an extension installed here. It's a dark theme extension. You click the box, it turns on dark theme, it turns it off. And I have 2 sites here. Now, Google Arts and Culture is what I've deemed as my sensitive site, and I'm going to run some policy to block any extension from running on that. So 3 different options, same as before, group policy method under extension management settings. And what you're going to do is the star at the very beginning of the JSON is going to say that this is going to be any extension, but you can get more granular and do individual ones if you'd like. And then the runtime block host, and then I've put in the Google Arts and Culture URL. And notice you can put stars in there to be able to protect on any sub pages. It will cover the whole thing, so you don't have to worry about blocking individual pages and entering it in multiple times. Second option, you guessed it, registry key method. So same place, we've created a different key called runtime blocked host, and we've put in that arts and culture URL. And the third method, which is Chrome Browser Cloud Management, it's in the same location under advanced settings in the apps and extensions settings. And right under where we blocked by permission, all you have to do is enter in the URL under the blocked URL section. And if you want to enter in multiple URLs, just hit enter, put the next one in. So once again, I like it because it's simple, clean, and easy, and I like a fancy UI. So moving on, this is what it looks like once we've applied the policy. So I go to my sensitive site, I click the extension, and it just doesn't work. But on external sites, I click on it, and it works great. So it's a really great way to get to that, coveted nirvana state with your end users, where they get the extensions that they want, and you provide those enhanced security protections in order to keep their devices, the sites that they visit, and your sensitive, PII, personal identifying information, company IP, customer information, keep that protected. So now we're going to shift gears and talk about custom extensions. So maybe you might have an extension out there that you've created. You looked on the market and couldn't find a third-party solution, so you decided to just write it yourself. So in these days of work from home, being able to make extensions accessible, especially custom extensions accessible to your users, regardless of where they're working, is becoming more and more important. So I'm going to talk about how you can get that set up and get your custom extensions out to your users. So first thing you're going to need to do, and the idea is that at this point, you've already created your extension. So you have a manifest, you have those permissions or rights declared within the manifest, you have an icon, a screenshot, everything that you need in order to add something to the Chrome Web Store. And in order to upload all that stuff, you're going to need to set up a developer account. So if you go to chrome.google.com/webstore/devconsole, this is where you can go to set up this dev account. It does require a hefty one-time fee of $5 in order to set it up. And just note that if you do have multiple developers in your environment, they'll also have to pay that $5 fee. It's just required to verify the account and publish items. So once you have this set up, and say you want to set up group publishing, so you're going to have multiple application or extension developers being able to collaborate in a single group. So that way, say if you're out of the office or someone's on vacation, you're still able to get those critical applications and extensions out to your users. You can set up group publishing. And how you do that, once you go into, have your account set up, you can go under your account and go into your Google Group Publishing. Now, if you have an existing Google group, you can convert that to a group publisher. Otherwise, you can click on the Create New Group hyperlink that the massive yellow arrow is pointing at, and then create. So you can create the group name, you can create the group email address, and send it out to your other extension developers, so that way you can get started and kind of prevent any roadblocks. Now, once you have your extensions uploaded to your dev console and they're ready to go, they've been tested, and there's lots of tutorials online to help you with that, you have to publish them. So you want to make these accessible to your users. So there's 3 different ways to publish extensions. First would be public. That means it's going to be ready for everybody in the world to be able to have access. So it's going to be present in Chrome Web Store search. It does not require users to sign into Google Identity, and it's supported in Chrome Browser Cloud Management. In fact, all 3 of these are supported to add those extensions for extension management and user settings within Chrome Browser Cloud Management. The second is going to be private. So this is going to be private just to your users on your domain. So it won't show up in a web search. It does require users to sign into Google Identity. That's how it verifies the domain. So if you're a G Suite user or something like that, maybe this might be a solution for you. And then there's unlisted. And in these days of work from home, this is definitely the option that I'm recommending for most enterprises. just because it doesn't show up in the Chrome Web Store search, as well as users don't have to sign into Google Identity. Maybe you don't have Google Identity. And it doesn't require users to sign in to verify your domain because maybe they're not on your domain. Maybe they're working from home, which many people are, myself included. So the users actually just need a link in order to install. So that's the 3 different methodologies for publishing in the Chrome Web Store. So now we're going to shift gears again, and we're going to talk about what's new, some things that are new today, as well as we'll talk about some roadmap items that are going to be coming later on in 2020. So there's a new enterprise policy. So it's called Block External Extensions. And this is available in Chrome 80 or higher. So what this does is it really just prevents extensions from being added in kind of obscure ways. So what that means is, say if you've deployed an extension within your enterprise and it just started adding an extension willy-nilly, and maybe it's annoying your end users, you can apply this policy and it will go ahead and block that extension from being installed through those kind of obscure channel ways. So it just makes it so if you don't want to block all unknown extensions, you can be able to use this policy. And then the one that I'm really excited about is there's a new API for Chrome Browser Cloud Management. And I kind of hinted at this earlier in the presentation. And really what it is a takeout script to be able to pull all the extension information from Chrome Browser Cloud Management and export it into a CSV file. So we have a lot of really great documentation on this. We have a demo video. We have step-by-step instructions from running the Python script, which we provide on Windows, Mac, Linux, and Chrome OS. So that way you can, once you have all your browsers installed and enrolled within Chrome Browser Cloud Management, you can really use this as a great first step to start managing extensions in that auditing process. So definitely feel free to check that out, and I'll have some links in the call to action resource page at the tail end of the presentation. Now, what's next? What's coming down the pipe in 2020? So really the one that's most exciting and based on a lot of feedback from our enterprise customers is the extension workflow, which is going to be moving into Trusted Tester in about Q3 of 2020. So what this does is we've gotten a lot of feedback from customers and end users from our enterprise customers that they want to provide a workflow in order for users to request extensions. So what this does is it allows users to go to the Chrome Web Store and click Add to Chrome to get their extension, and it creates a request process for that extension to be approved. So if you're already doing auditing through Chrome Browser Cloud Management, within the same console, you as an administrator will be able to approve or deny that extension based on your own specific security requirements. So from an end user perspective, what it's going to do is they'll go to the Chrome Web Store, and they'll click on it and it'll say, do you want to request this extension? And later on down the pipe in version 2, version 3 of this, it's going to be able to provide say a justification, as well as be able to send some notification back to the end user from the administrator on why an extension may have been denied. So that's going to be some future functionality. But right now, when it moves into Trusted Tester in Q3 of this year, it's going to provide a request process. So that's the end user perspective. In the administrator view, I go into the apps and extension settings and I go under requests, and then I can see all the requests that are out, the amount. This really gives me a good idea on what I should approve or deny, and I'm able to approve or deny it directly from the console. So it's just a really great way to provide a workflow. Makes it a little easier for an administrator to find out what the demand is for a specific extension, so that way they know that if it's just a one-off, maybe they might not approve it, but if there's a big demand, maybe it might be a business critical extension. So here's how to get started. Here's how to kind of move forward with getting your extension management dreams fulfilled. So definitely check out Chrome Browser Cloud Management. That's going to be the best way to start the auditing process, and you can go to the link there and be able to show the steps to get going. Definitely check out the extension white paper. It's called Extension Managing Extensions Within Your Enterprise. It covers all these different methodologies. And definitely check out the extension API to be able to export that extension information from Chrome Browser Cloud Management. We have step-by-step instructions, a demo video on YouTube, and also a blog post, so you can consume all the details at your leisure. So thank you so much for joining. I hope that we were able to fulfill your extension management requirements. Have a great day.